You can go to marchonpentagon.com and see our open letter to Donald Trump, basically saying, you know, you're tweeting all this stuff, quit tweeting, you're the one that has the power to bring the troops home, and it's, you know, it can't be done by a tweet, it has to be done by, you know, an order, because he's the commander-in-chief. So you can go see that too. I mean, we don't have any confidence in these bougie politicians, but we do have confidence if the people get to know what the situation, and we can rally around and work together. And that's what happened when I went to Camp Casey. People were like, oh, there's someone that feels the same way I do, you know? And so that's what we're trying to do, educate people, rally people around the cause. Okay. So thank you, lady next to that guy. I think my ponytail's too tight. I had the ponytail for like 10 hours, so it's cutting off.
And it's
past my bedtime. DeBar is our next one. He's the guy next to the lady who's next to the guy. And he's a radio journalist and lifelong anti-war activist based in New York. He's a frequent commentator on international affairs in such global media as RT and Press TV. Don hosts a daily 30-minute newscast, which is, I don't know, it looks like carried dozens of terrestrial stations. Oh my God, and the internet at communitypublicradio.org. And you know what he did not write, which is the most important role in the world, he is the engineer for Cindy Sheehan's soapbox. What the hell, Ron?
Choo Choo Charlie was an engineer also. Thank you. First of all, this has been an awesome 2 days. Yesterday, doing our Stations of the Cross, or stations of the Pentangle, I guess, we were doing from White House to the Washington Post and everything in between. I don't know how many people we were, 150 something. Hung tough, made a big noise, people saw us, everybody going by was stopping to take film. It really made an impression, and the signs and everything made this, you know, the message very clear. I think we reached a lot of people yesterday, a lot. And that's an important part of building to accomplish what we're talking about, which is to put an end to these endless wars. You know, it's cliche, but if we don't put an end to the endless wars, they're going to put an end to us. You can see the dynamic that's involved with the expense of maintaining the military, the global military empire, essentially, that hollows out the global economies, it's hollowing out the planet itself. The Pentagon, the largest consumer of fossil fuels that you'll ever meet in a dark alley, larger than 140 nations, I think, in terms of its carbon footprint. Of course, designed not to transport people or to bring food or housing or any other, you know, economic benefit, but to kill. We pay this enormous expense so that if it's fully expressed, it exterminates life on the planet. The weaponry exists, has been constructed, delivered, and deployed to do this. This has been an ongoing project of the United States since it became the United States and before. Today's Columbus Day, quote unquote, the traditional one. In 1492, this war began here. People came from Europe and they started to steal the land, murder the people, drag other people over to develop it, and a very small set of the people that set this thing in motion got the benefit of it, the major benefit of it. A lot of our brothers and sisters across the board were, I guess, compradors in one way or another. We got, you know, college paid for maybe, or got to buy a house, or had some other small benefit. And thought, well, you know, that other stuff's not my business. And we went along for 100 years, maybe 150 years. That has started to dry up. This monster gets exceedingly hungry. It's eating everything in its path. It's eating the savings and equity of the middle class in this country. It's eating the union jobs in this country. It's eating a whole lot of other stuff, and it's going to eat us if we don't put a stop to it.
Yep.
But how do we do it? I think everybody here agrees with that. Yeah. And so the task is, of course, how. We can march, we can meet, we can talk and exchange ideas. These are all very important. We're looking at power arrayed in a way that has never been in the history of our species. And we're looking at an imperialism that is, advanced a century and change beyond what Lenin looked at, in 1916, 1917, when he did his famous piece on the highest stage of capitalism. So the whole class structure has changed since then. You have now like a global economy that was envisioned maybe by some people 100 years ago, but not by very many, and certainly not the center of discussion or the point from which people proceeded to have a conversation when they critique military, war, imperialism, etc. We have to understand where power lies, and how it behaves, and basically how we can interact with it from the margins, because at best, at the moment, we're at the margins. When you go back to February 15, 2003, largest anti-war demonstration in the history of planet Earth. It didn't slow the war down, excuse my language, a fucking minute. Not a minute. And what happened? What happened was instead the anti-war message that was expressed was by the November 2004 election repositioned into anybody but Bush, with our side backing a candidate who brought us what we have now. That was John Kerry that ran against Bush. It was John Kerry that was the Secretary of State for the second term of Barack Obama. That was John Kerry that was the Secretary of State cleaning up in Libya and also helping before that happened. The whole Syrian episode, where do you want to go? You want to go to what's been happening in Venezuela since 2011? What's been happening in DR Congo since 2011? What's been happening across Africa, West Asia, Latin America? Kerry's right in there. Not a solution to the problem that we were protesting on February 15, 2004. This is something that we have to keep in mind also when we're going to these politicians with questions. Bernie Sanders. Hugo Chavez. Who was Hugo Chavez? Bernie Sanders. A then communist dictator. Those are his words. Those are his words. This is not going to be our savior on this point. We have to find ways of leveraging the power that we have to force a change in policy. That requires first understanding the moment. At the moment, globally, this system is in crisis. Evidence of that in this country was the 2016 election. Aside from the fact that we got Trump at the end, that's not the crisis. That's not the catastrophe either. Okay, the fact that Bernie and Trump rose up unexpectedly was an indication of the crisis being felt on the ground. There's a working class crisis that was expressed where people stood in the 2016 election. In the Democratic Party, Sanders represented a solution as opposed to Clinton, who was business as usual. In the Republican Party, Trump represented a solution as opposed to business as usual. You notice that there was a Bush running. He couldn't get any traction. I went to both conventions. At the RNC, I'm asking people, why are you voting for Trump? He's not exactly anti-abortion or anti-gay like your Christian Republicans are. They said, I voted over these things before. He said, I'm going to get a job. That's what I'm voting for. And you bet the same thing was going on with Sanders. You had all these places, industrial, post-industrial America, people out of work, looking for some assistance, and a system that doesn't respond. At the same time this was happening, also standing up in place, working class, Black Lives Matter protests, hardcore stuff going on, Standing Rock, all over the country. It was an open rebellion with no leadership. The problem was there's no leadership because there's no unitary vision, no understanding of the moment. And how do we take what we have arrayed and leverage it and beat this thing until it comes down? That's what we have to work on. And it requires really taking a careful look at the moment. And I'm going to finish with this, because this is the moment that I see. I see the FBI, CIA, and 17 other flavors of intel agencies, the leadership of the Democratic and Republican parties, the bulk of the Congress, go back to Korea and Iran, for example, just to make sure Trump didn't try to make peace with Korea or Iran or Russia. Congress, sui sponte, on its own initiative, decided 2 years ago now or whatever, to have a vote to add more sanctions on this without Trump proposing anything, and then came back with, I think, 9 dissenters out of 535 members of Congress. So the political institution is in bed also. You have intel agencies, the politicians, the leadership of both parties, and the media, and the bulk of corporate America, all on one side. I'm sorry, which side am I supposed to be on again? If you're going to fight imperialism, the first thing you do is fight it. You guys go over there, bam! You look and see who's standing next to you, and that's your ally for the moment you're standing there. And have it done on them, because they start acting up.